To perceive what others cannot is not a gift. It is a liability. In a world ruled by illusion and consensus, the man who sees too clearly is not crowned, but crucified. Today, we expose the hidden danger of seeing too much, too soon, and how to survive it. Throughout history, the rare few who have pierced the veil of collective delusion have been outcast, poisoned, or burned at the stake. Not because they were wrong, but because they were right, too early. The masses fear the seer, not for his error, but for his clarity. In this episode, we dissect the psychology of perception as a threat, the anatomy of isolation that follows insight, and the ruthless strategies one must employ to navigate the treacherous terrain of truth in a world addicted to comforting lies. You will not find sentiment here, only the cold strategy of survival. You think seeing the truth will set you free. No, it sets you apart. And in the world of men, separation is not freedom, it is exile. To see what others don't, what they refuse to see, is to place yourself in opposition to their comfort, their security, their fragile illusions. That is not a position of power. It is a position of danger. Ask yourself, what happens to the man who walks into a room of the blind and speaks of light? Is he praised for his vision, or condemned for his madness? History answers this question with blood. Socrates, accused not of ignorance, but of corrupting the youth with too much truth. He saw through the masks of Athenian virtue, and so they silenced him with hemlock. Galileo pointed his telescope and saw a world that contradicted scripture. What did that clarity buy him? A trial, a sentence, a forced recantation. Truth was not his shield. It was his crime. You may believe we've evolved, that we now embrace those who see clearly, but look closely. In corporate boardrooms, in political chambers, in classrooms and cults, clarity is still unwelcome, especially when it challenges the accepted narrative. Why? Because people do not seek truth. They seek confirmation. They seek comfort. And if your insight threatens that comfort, you become a threat, not because you are wrong, but because you make others feel wrong. Here lies the curse. The clearer your perception, the more invisible you become to those around you. They don't want to follow your gaze. They want you to shut your eyes. This is not paranoia. It is psychology. Human beings are social animals. Their security comes not from reality, but from shared belief, from consensus. Truth is secondary. Agreement is everything. To deviate from that agreement, even silently, makes you dangerous. So what do they do with dangerous men? They isolate them, ridicule them, rewrite them. You've seen it yourself. The colleague who speaks an uncomfortable truth in the meeting, what happens to him? He's labeled difficult, disloyal, not a team player. It doesn't matter if he's correct. In fact, being correct only makes it worse. Because now he's not just annoying, he's a mirror, and no one wants to see their reflection when the image is ugly. If you possess clarity, you must understand this: your insight is not a gift to others. It is a weapon pointed at their ego, and most will strike back before they ever thank you. So what's the solution? Do you stop seeing? No. But you stop revealing. You stop imagining that truth alone persuades, that insight alone earns loyalty. It does not. The wise strategist does not draw his sword in every room he enters. He observes, he studies the terrain, and he waits, because clarity, when revealed at the wrong time, is not just useless, it is fatal. Consider Cassandra of Troy. She was cursed to see the future, but never to be believed. The curse was not in the vision. It was in the timing. It was in the delivery. You may believe your role is to awaken others. It is not. Your role, if you are to survive and rule, is to decide who is ready and when they are ready. And when they are not, you smile, you nod, you say nothing, because silence, when you know the truth, is not weakness, it is strategy. And yet, if silence is your shield, what, then, becomes your sword? That leads us to the next principle: how perception, when wielded with precision, becomes political weaponry, ready to step deeper into the shadows. What if I told you that truth is useless, unless you know how to dress it? You may see clearly, but if you cannot control what others perceive, you are powerless, because in this world, perception isn't just a mirror, it's a weapon. And only the most cunning know how to sharpen it. Consider this. Does a ruler govern through truth? No. He governs through image. Caesar wore the laurel not because it gave him strength, but because it signaled it. Power is rarely real. It is projected, and the masses, hungry for certainty, believe what is shown, not what is. Here lies the secret of all manipulation. People do not respond to reality. They respond to stories. So the question is never, what is true? The question is, what can I make them believe? History rewards not the honest man, but the man who can shape perception. Napoleon crowned himself emperor, not to honor tradition, but to show the church could not crown him. One gesture, one moment, and the world saw dominance, not blasphemy. That is the art. Psychologically, humans crave coherence. They need meaning, even when none exists. So the manipulator gives them symbols, narratives, enemies. Why? Because once perception is hijacked, logic is irrelevant. You don't need truth to rule. You need belief. Think of modern propaganda. It's not about facts. It's about framing. Two identical actions, one called resistance, the other terrorism. Same deed. Different perception, different response. Control the lens, and you control the response. But this isn't limited to kings and conquerors. In daily life, perception is used to secure power, to protect status, to eliminate threats. Subtly, quietly, effectively. Take the ambitious employee who wants to rise. He doesn't announce his brilliance. He lets others say it for him. He engineers situations where his competence is seen, never spoken. He knows self-promotion breeds suspicion. But others praising him, that breeds consensus. And consensus is currency. Now consider the darker game. How do you destroy a rival? You don't attack their work. You attack how others see them. You plant doubt, a whisper. She seems unstable lately, doesn't she? You've done nothing and everything. Because once perception shifts, reality follows. People avoid her. Trust erodes, and she begins to fulfill the image you designed. This is not cruelty. It is calculus. Understand this: to wield perception as a weapon, you must detach from emotion. This is not about fairness. It is about outcome. An outcome belongs to the strategist who stays hidden while pulling the strings. Ask yourself, how are you perceived? Not who you are. How do others experience you? Because if you don't shape that answer, someone else will. And they will not shape it in your favor. This is why the wise do not speak of their principles. They exhibit them selectively, like armor, like perfume, like poison. They craft a version of themselves that fits the battlefield they are on. Not authentic, effective, not honest, strategic. Is that manipulation? Of course. But so is every advertisement, every political speech, every romantic gesture made with calculated intent. Manipulation is not rare. It is universal. The only question is whether you do it or it is done to you. So learn this lesson well: truth is only power when dressed in persuasion. Otherwise, it is a beggar, naked and ignored. But when perception becomes your instrument, you can make kings tremble without lifting a finger. And yet, if you must manipulate what is seen, what must you conceal? That brings us to the next law of survival: feign ignorance. Hide the dagger. Smile as they sleep. Let's explore the burden and brilliance of strategic blindness. They say knowledge is power. They rarely tell you that showing it can get you killed. To see the game is dangerous. To be seen seeing it is worse. There are moments when insight must be hidden, like a blade beneath velvet. Because the world does not reward the one who knows. It rewards the one who pretends not to until it's too late. So let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed the power dynamics? You knew who feared whom, who spoke too much, who listened too little. You saw the hierarchy, the alliances, the lies dressed as manners. And then what? Did you speak up? Did you reveal what you saw? Or did you smile, nod, and say nothing? The wise do not declare their vision. They wait. The strategist learns to feign blindness, to wear ignorance like armor. Because if people suspect you see through them, they will treat you as a threat, even before you make a move. Look to Cardinal Richelieu. He knew the court of Louis XVI was filled with vipers. He played the role of humble advisor, soft-spoken, deferential, but behind that mask, he was rearranging France, subtly, patiently, permanently. He didn't declare war on his enemies. He made them speak freely, while he observed silently, and when he struck, it was not with argument, but with absolute advantage. This is the art of dissimulation, not lying, concealing, not deceiving, delaying revelation until the moment delivers maximum yield. Psychologically, humans trust the familiar, not the intelligent. The moment you expose that you understand the system better than they do, you invoke fear, and fear breeds resistance. So how do you win? You hide the depth of your perception. You ask questions you already know the answers to. You allow others to underestimate you. Strategically, because when they miscalculate you, they reveal themselves. And in that revelation, you gain leverage. Picture the chessboard. The novice shows their plan with every move. The master sacrifices a pawn to bait the king. The same applies in every domain: politics, business, relationships. You want control. Then you must learn to appear slow while calculating quickly, to seem lost while memorizing the terrain, to look small while building an empire from the shadows. Remember, Julius Caesar was once kidnapped by pirates. They demanded a ransom of 20 talents. He laughed, and told them he was worth 50. He spent his days joking with them, feigning camaraderie. And once released, he raised a fleet, hunted them down, and had them crucified. That's not arrogance. That's patience. And patience is the weapon of those who see more than they reveal. But what stops most people from mastering this? Ego, the need to be recognized, to be validated, to be praised for their insight. And so, they reveal their mind too early. They show their strength before the battlefield is theirs. They die, not because they were wrong, but because they were seen. Understand this: your awareness is a loaded gun. If you wave it around, expect to be disarmed. But if you keep it holstered, hidden, no one sees the threat until it's too late. So let the others posture. Let them speak. Let them show you their minds. And you smile. You agree. You wait. Because nothing is more dangerous than the quiet one who sees everything and says nothing. But eventually you must act. And when that time comes, will you aim to guide the herd, or sever yourself from it? That brings us to the final law: control the consensus, or embrace the exile. Choose wisely. The path ahead splits in two. You have seen what others don't. You've kept it hidden. You've shaped perception. You've played blind while watching everything. Now the game sharpens, because once you hold that clarity, once you know the truth beneath the masks, you face a decision. Do you shape the crowd or walk alone? Control the consensus or embrace the exile? There is no third path. Understand this: consensus is not truth. It is a shared illusion, a convenient lie repeated until it becomes law. And the most powerful men in history, those who ruled not just armies but minds, were not seekers of truth. They were architects of consensus. They understood one thing: the crowd does not care what is real. It cares what is repeated. It cares what is felt. It cares what the others believe. Do you think religion spread by divine revelation alone? No, it spread because emperors like Constantine saw its utility. He converted not out of piety, but out of strategy. The church became the spine of the empire, not because it was true, but because it could unify. That is the power of consensus. It builds empires. It manufactures loyalty. It creates stability on the surface. But here's the catch: once you shape a consensus, you become its prisoner. To rule the herd, you must stand among them, speak their language, feed their fears. You become the shepherd, but the crook you carry is also a cage. Can you live with that? Can you speak half-truths forever? Can you suppress your full clarity to maintain the illusion? Most can't. Most reveal too much, too soon, and when they do, the herd turns. Because the crowd doesn't want to be awakened. It wants to be affirmed. When you challenge the story they cling to, they don't thank you. They tear you down. That is the price of exile. It is not loneliness that breaks the visionary. It is irrelevance. So the question becomes, will you bend to the story or vanish outside it? Nietzsche understood this torment. He said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But what happens when your why cannot be spoken? When your vision contradicts the very structure holding society together? You are faced with a choice: manipulate the myth or become its sacrifice. Many try to stand apart. They write, they speak, they warn, and they are forgotten. Why? Because truth without influence is noise. The alternative: shape the consensus from within. Tell the crowd what they want to hear, while guiding them, step by step, toward what they need to understand. This is what the true strategist does. He does not preach to deaf ears. He sings in tune, with a different melody hidden underneath. But make no mistake, this role is exhausting. To wear the mask each day, to smile while knowing the machine you maintain is flawed. It requires a coldness, a detachment, a vision that burns but does not blind. Yet if you master it, you become untouchable. You write the script the world repeats. You don't argue truth. You design belief. You do not flee the herd. You herd the herd, and if one day they turn on you, you vanish by choice, not by force. Because the strategist always has two plans: one to rule, one to escape. So ask yourself, which fate will you choose? Will you become the unseen hand that shapes the world, or the outcast, untouched but unheard? Before you answer, consider this: the danger was never in seeing. It was in being seen seeing. And now you know why. But knowledge is nothing without execution. So ask yourself, what will you do with it? You believed your vision was rare. You thought seeing clearly gave you power. But now, you begin to understand. The true threat was never what you saw. It was that someone saw you seeing it. You forgot that insight changes nothing until it's noticed. And once it is, you become a liability. Because to see what others deny is not just perception, it's exposure. And exposure is peril. Ask yourself, why did they burn Bruno? Not for ignorance, but for seeing too much and refusing to lower his gaze. Why was Hypatia dragged through the streets, torn to pieces by a mob? Because she saw beyond the religious tide, beyond superstition, beyond fear. And she refused to pretend otherwise. The mob didn't kill her because she was wrong. They killed her because her clarity disrupted their cohesion. To survive as one who sees, you must learn this rule: the most dangerous moment is not when you observe. It is when they observe you observing. The instant they suspect you know what they don't, they will move to silence, discredit, or absorb you. They might smile, offer you a seat, applaud your insight. But make no mistake, this is not respect. It is containment. They want to manage your fire, not be burned by it. Let's go deeper. In psychology, there's a concept called social threat detection. Groups are wired to detect nonconformists, those who diverge from the norm. Why? Because divergence implies unpredictability, and unpredictability threatens stability. Even if you say nothing, your very presence is enough. Your silence becomes accusation. Your observation becomes judgment. They'll sense it. They'll whisper. They'll say you're too intense, too serious, too much. But what they truly mean is, you see us too clearly and we don't like it. So what do? Do you dim your light, bury your vision? No, you learn how to deflect, how to move in the shadows, how to seem harmless while remaining sharp. It is the art of camouflage, not cowardice, because only the foolish visionary waves a torch in a room soaked in oil. You must become like the panther, quiet, aware, lethal. Look at Talleyrand. The man survived kings, revolutions, and emperors. Why? Because he never revealed his full gaze. He knew everything and said almost nothing. He walked through fire by appearing neutral until the moment arrived to strike. In every domain, courtrooms, classrooms, corporations, the same rule applies. To wield the truth, you must first survive it. And survival requires the discipline to appear less dangerous than you are. Not less intelligent, less threatening. You can be the knife, so long as you stay in the sheath. So ask yourself, are you willing to pretend? Are you prepared to downplay your awareness? To wear dullness like a cloak, while your mind sharpens in silence? Because here is the paradox. If you show the world you see everything, it will try to blind you. But if you let them believe you see nothing, you can watch it all unfold, unharmed, untouched, and in control. This is not betrayal of truth. It is protection of it. Clarity is a weapon, but stealth is what keeps your hand steady. So now, you've seen the terrain. You understand the danger. You know what must be done. But one final question remains. When the time comes to act, will you strike openly? Or will you vanish, leaving only a shadow and a legacy? They will never fear what they cannot see, and that is your advantage. To control others without their knowing, this is the highest form of power. Not through force, not through commands, but through unseen influence. You guide their choices by shaping their options. You direct their thoughts by feeding them ideas they believe are their own. Let them speak. Let them laugh. Let them feel free, while you pull the strings in silence. That is the essence of true rule dominance without detection. So ask yourself, do you want to be obeyed? Or do you want to be obeyed without question? If this disturbed you, good. If it intrigued you, better. If it awakened something, then you already understand. Now move wisely. And before you vanish back into the crowd, leave your mark. Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe for more strategies drawn from history's darkest minds. And share this with someone who sees too much or not enough. Control is silent. But your next move doesn't have to be.